Having covered brain anatomy, let's move on to how to learn and various brain diseases. In lecture, we are going to be looking at 15 minutes to review the last lecture topic, going through neurotransmitters and the parts of the brain. It would be wise for you to do likewise if you are not using this as review. The objectives for this lecture are to be able to list the steps in memory formation, be able to explain how mental acuity is maintained, that's just kind of useful for life, and list and define diseases of the brain. First off, let's look at learning. So you're learning about learning. Here we go. The first step is you have a neuron connect to another neuron at a new synapse. So what you have here is a new synapse between two neurons. And next what will happen is if there is more activity at that synapse, it will be reinforced. So how does more activity occur? Well, if that neural pathway is going to be maintained, then we're going to see more activity at it. So first off, let's get a new neural pathway put into your brain. All right, so ostrich sandwich. That's right, I said ostrich sandwich. If I had only said it once, you might not have learned what I said because it would have just been a simple fleeting meeting between two of your neurons. But now you're going to start thinking about that and you're going to put meanings to the word ostrich sandwich. The word ostrich sandwich, it's two words. And now you're thinking, well, there was something he said wrong with ostrich sandwich, and he doesn't usually make mistakes, or at least he edits them out. Now I want you to write the term ostrich sandwich. As you're writing it, you are now making those two words be put together on various other parts of your brain in charge of coordinating muscle movements. What part of your brain is that? You might want to look back at a previous lecture. What's happening now is you are going to create additional synapses where that axon is now having multiple different synapses with the dendrites or cell body of another neuron. So what happens is when a single transmission comes down that axon, instead of just getting one stimulus, which might lead to a slight depolarization, you're going to get multiple stimuli, which is going to lead to a much larger depolarization, which is more likely to trigger an action potential. So key to this is repetition. Without repetition, you're not going to get more activity out of synapse, which means if all you do is watch these lectures the night before the exam, you're not going to get that repetition. You're not going to get that long-term memory. Uh-oh, I hope that's not your strategy right now. Short-term memory holds information from seconds to hours. So yes, you can watch this lecture right before the exam and probably get a fair amount of information for the next few hours. How many hours? Variables between people. Long-term memory will hold the information from days to years. And that really depends on how often you use something or how often you repeat something. Having a single one-term experience where you just hear something, you're probably not going to remember it 10 years later, which is why I will not remember a lot of people's names. Memories are stored in the cerebral cortex, specifically the temporal lobe, as well as in the cerebellum and limbic system, depending on what type of information they are and where they need to be processed properly. The hippocampus is key to transferring short-term memories and converting them into long-term memories. So how do we maintain a good brain? Well, that's mental acuity. Just because neurons are dying does not mean the brain cannot develop new connections. You have a specific number of neurons and they will go down with time, especially if you are doing things like banging your head against walls a lot or listening to podcasts a lot or Janky Box or whatever it is. If you listen to them a lot, I'm pretty sure you'd kill some neurons. Leading a mentally active life helps make new connections. You see some senior citizens here painting. I hate to say it, but watching YouTube shorts is not really that much of a mentally active life. You're very passively taking information in, and there's no motor cortex getting involved, which tells you that you also should lead a physically active life. This is just going to help health in general, but will also help the health of your brain. Now, there are other causes of memory loss. We're going to look at some disorders. We are going to consider dementia briefly when we talk about Alzheimer's and Alzheimer's disease. And there are different ways to lose memories. So do keep in mind that maintaining mental acuity is key to being mentally prepared for a very long life. Let's look at different disorders here. We're going to start with the most common one that many people will be suffering during this class, and that is simply a headache. Most are caused by sustained tightening of muscles. Think about what stress does to the muscles in your head and neck. It can also be caused by the swelling of membranes lining the sinuses. I know I get frequent sinus headaches whenever the weather changes, and that's one of those type of headaches. They are also caused by eye strain. So if you have spent a long time watching this computer, why don't you just pause this video? I can be paused. Go take a break, go outside, and reduce the eye strain and reduce your chance of a headache. They can also be caused by a brain tumor, internal bleeding, or meningitis. Next up, the worst type of headache, something else entirely, a migraine. This is going to be recurrent, it's going to be severe, it's going to be throbbing, and it's going to last between 4 and 72 hours. There will be certain types of triggers that cause a migraine, such as certain types of food, certain types of stressors. Often we'll see light activity around the beginning of a migraine where you can get hypersensitive to light. And there's also nausea and vomiting associated with a migraine. These are very severe pounding headaches, and they are nothing to be taken lightly. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive loss of mental function, affecting the mental capacity, the ability to plan, and affecting an individual's memories. So what happens with Alzheimer's is you lose the most recent memories soonest, and the oldest memories last, which is why if you are a relatively new addition to someone's life who has Alzheimer's, they're probably going to forget who you are, which can be disorienting, and of course they're going to be upset. The world is decaying around them, and they can't seem to remember everything people expect them to. Be gentle with people with Alzheimer's. The cause is unknown, but we do know these amyloid plaques are present in people with Alzheimer's. Current medicine is inducing different ways to help prevent or stave off Alzheimer's, and that is a very good thing. Next up is Parkinson's. It's characterized by tremors in the hands and a lack of dopamine in the brain, caused by progressive deterioration of brain centers that control movement. There are different types of drugs currently being used in treatment and certain types of surgery that can help delay or assist in the remediation of Parkinson's disease. Multiple sclerosis is caused by destruction of the myelin sheath of nerve cells in the central nervous system. Remember that white matter? Multiple sclerosis affects that white matter. The damaged myelin results in nerve cell death that can lead to numbness, slurred speech, or paralysis. Meningitis is an infection of the cerebral spinal fluid that bathes the brain and the spinal cord. So you can see here that we do not have blood directly on the brain. That's good because blood contains a lot of amino acids, and amino acids are very similar to neurotransmitters. Instead, you have cerebral spinal fluid, which gets the nutrients to the brain. Now, of course, this fluid can be infected, just like blood can be infected, and we have this infection and inflammation, which will cause a fever, it's like an infection, a stiff neck, well, you look where it is, a headache, also look where it is, confusion, it's affecting your brain, increased sensitivity to light, nausea, and vomiting. These symptoms should be addressed immediately because meningitis can be a severe and sometimes even lethal infection. Last up, brain tumors. There are two types here. There's a benign brain tumor. It does not grow uncontrollably. It does not spread in the brain. Then there is the malignant brain tumor, characterized by uncontrolled growth and spread, even spread to other parts of the body. Brain tumors are most common in people who are 3 to 12-year-olds or 40 to 70-year-olds. So most of you are probably between the ages of 40 and 70. And hey, it's less likely that you have a brain tumor. It's more likely that it's just a headache that's caused because you are currently staring at this screen, because staring at the screen causes eye strain. Why are you straining so hard? Because you're trying to learn this stuff, and learning this stuff doesn't really work without repetition. Ostrich sandwich.